This is urgent information from the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, an official congressional advisory board. My name is Jonathan Hill. This report relates to vulnerabilities of our nation's electrical infrastructure. As we all know, electricity is hugely important to our day-to-day existence. If it were to suddenly go away for a significant period of time, our lives would become much more difficult, and even our survival could be jeopardized. Heating, air conditioning, life support systems, refrigeration, access to fuel, water, banking, and communications would all cease. Economic losses could also be severe, and even national security could be placed at risk. For these reasons, the security and reliability of our nation's power infrastructure needs to be a top concern for our government and all of us. Unfortunately, as you will shortly see, a lapse in government attention to this matter is placing all Americans in significant danger. Credible reports indicate that high-voltage transformers imported from China are designed in a way that makes them vulnerable to cyberattack, permitting a potential adversary nation, such as China, to turn them off. These high-voltage transformers, many of which are massive, can weigh as much as 400 tons. They are key aspects of our nation's electrical grid, as they are an integral part of its substations. A vulnerability of this sort makes the U.S. susceptible to regional or national protracted blackouts of electric grids and other life-sustaining critical infrastructures during an international crisis or war. In recent times, we have seen examples of this vulnerability affecting other nations. In October 2020, during a dispute with India, China used cyber warfare methods to black out Mumbai, an Indian city of 30 million people, and the capital of the Indian state of Maharashtra, demonstrating capability to plunge all of India into a blackout. India is at risk of this because its electric power grid and other critical infrastructures use imported transformers and supervisory and control systems, referred to in the industry as SCADAs, that were imported from China. In June 2020, in the Galawan Valley, there was a deadly border clash fought with sticks and clubs. The following August, India accused China of provoking border tensions twice within 2 weeks. Then in September, China accused India of firing shots. About a month later, the power went out to Mumbai. An Indian general called it a warning from China. The Maharashtra government investigated the blackout. Its home minister gave a briefing that indicated that the Mumbai blackout was sabotage, and much evidence came out that strongly indicates that. We'll briefly review some of that evidence so that you'll see that our concern is well-grounded. The Cybersecurity Division of Ernst & Young carried out the investigation, which produced a 100-page preliminary report. The Central Electricity Authority sent alerts that 40 substations had detected malware, that is, malicious program code, being placed on their computer systems. A clear link with China was seen when India's Computer Emergency Response Team reported that command and control servers in China were making contact with computer management systems for one of India's load dispatch centers. They also detected the presence of malware. Later, India's National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center pointed to a Chinese state-sponsored group and listed domains and Internet protocol addresses that needed to be blocked to prevent further attacks. All of this indicates that China was responsible for the Mumbai power outage, and there are indications that China has maliciously installed malware in the Indian electric grid's controls nationwide, enabling the potential complete shutdown of India's electric power grid in the event of increasing or continued tensions between the two nations. This isn't the first time that this new type of warfare has been practiced. The very first cyber attack on electrical infrastructure occurred in 2015 and was conducted by Russia against Ukraine during a period of ongoing military conflict between both nations. On December 23, 2015, an electrical power plant serving regions across Ukraine was attacked, causing the disconnection of 7 110 kilovolt substations and 23 35 kilovolt substations, for a total of 30 substations. The attackers were able to take control of supervisory and control systems. More recently, in April of this year, as Russia alarmingly massed troops on the border with Ukraine, the editor-in-chief of state-owned Russia Today and the RT TV network Margarita Simonyan, likely a close collaborator with Russian President Putin, stated in a TV interview, and I quote, "Russia will invade Ukraine, sparking a conflict with the U.S. that will force entire cities into blackouts. All-out cyber warfare, nationwide forced blackouts." Russian TV described some cyber attack possibilities that ranged from small-scale threats to existential threats, and these included blacking out part of New York City, like Harlem, blacking out a state like Florida, or shutting down the electrical grid for the entire United States. 2 weeks after Simonyan made these public statements, the Colonial Pipeline attack occurred, shutting down fuel supplies to parts of the eastern United States and fuel supplies to a military base, 4 days, powerfully demonstrating Russian ability to shut down U.S. infrastructure systems. There's more than a small likelihood that both these events, Simonyan's televised comments and the pipeline attack, were intended by the Russian government as a conveniently deniable veiled threat. The present course of world events and U.S. foreign policy suggests that increasing diplomatic and potential military conflict with Russia and China are in our future. Given this and the likelihood of those nations using cyber warfare methods to attack our infrastructure, it's important that we close any major vulnerabilities that we have in this area. This is highlighted by Energy Secretary Granholm's very concerning comments of June 6th of this year, when she confirmed on CNN that our nation's adversaries have the ability to shut down our electric grid. Notwithstanding this, as though oblivious to any national security threat, the electric utility industry is still importing critical equipment and systems from the People's Republic of China and installing them on the U.S. electric grid, which the Chinese, per U.S. government sources, are already likely hacking. Just this year, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency called out China for its cyber attacks on a wide range of industries and sectors, including the energy sector. And in 2003, about 20 years ago, the U.S. Congress expressed concern about China's coordinated cyber reconnaissance and probing of U.S. electric utilities. Today, we've imported 294 massive-scale Chinese transformers of capacity greater than 100 kilovolt amperes and 366 very large transformers of greater than 10,000 kilovolt ampere capacity. These are transformers that are key to the operations of our power grid. One Chinese transformer company brags online that their transformers provide 20% of the power to Las Vegas and 10% of the power to New York City. Alarmingly, there is presently no requirement that anybody check any of this equipment for vulnerabilities to cyber attack. The Wall Street Journal reported on May 27, 2020, in an article by Rebecca Smith, that a large Chinese transformer weighing 250 tons was seized by the federal government when it came ashore in Houston. It was taken to Sandia National Laboratory for evaluation. The lab's been tight-lipped about its findings, but Latham Sadler, former Director of Intelligence Programs of the National Security Council, stated that they found, and I quote, "hardware that was put into that had the ability for somebody in China to switch it off." Yes, you heard that right. So if China is setting itself up to be able to turn off our transformers and power grid, why then are alarm bells seemingly not yet sounding within our government's national security community and within the halls of the U.S. Congress? While we've imported nearly 300 massive-scale Chinese transformers that are key to the operations of our electrical substations, a federal study referenced in a March 12, 2014 Wall Street Journal article by Rebecca Smith has shown that if just 9 of our nation's key substations were to be rendered inoperable, the entire national electric grid would go down. Again, that's with just 9 substations being taken out, whereas with the introduction of 300 Chinese transformers into this country, China may be able to use cyber warfare methods to shut down as many as 300 substations. With near certainty, this would cause a nationwide grid outage, which could require a long process to restore normal service. However, it gets worse. According to research done by Michael McBee, the author of a complaint filed recently with FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, a company wholly owned by the government of China through a series of front companies, is selling not just Chinese-built transformer products, but also grid security and monitoring systems. And get this, works with the utility industry's Electric Power Research Institute, of all things on grid security issues. This is especially alarming in light of China's official requirement that all Chinese companies participate in the government's intelligence work whenever it demands that they do so. According to China expert Dr. Murray Scott Tanner, who's worked with the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, has been a senior researcher for the RAND Corporation, and has received intensive training in their language. China's 2017 intelligence law requires all Chinese companies, organizations, and citizens to, and I quote, support, assist, and cooperate with the state intelligence work. Furthermore, their so-called law doesn't allow any of the same to refuse to cooperate in intelligence activities and requires that they keep it all secret. All of this paints a very alarming picture. What is also alarming in this context is the very light regulatory approach of the federal government towards the electric power industry, which has a reputation for repeatedly and successfully pushing back hard at all federal government attempts to tighten grid security. Interestingly, that same industry also has a history of spending huge amounts on funding political campaigns and federal lobbying. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, during just one election, the 2020 election cycle, the utilities spent over $137 million on campaigns and lobbying, whereas over the last decade, they spent more than a whopping $1.2 billion. Could this have something to do with the federal government's failure to sufficiently respond to national and homeland security issues as they relate to the power grid? A complaint relative to the transformer and broader grid security issues has been filed with FERC by grid security advocate Michael McBee. Given all of the facts of this matter and the increasing potential of increasing diplomatic tension or actual armed conflict with Russia and China, it's important that FERC see that there is intense governmental, media, and citizen interest in this matter, so that they overcome any pressure from the utility industry and do what is absolutely necessary to protect the U.S. and all of us Americans. Likewise, Congress should take a keen interest and use whatever legislative remedies it has. Loss of the power grid for days, weeks, or months due to a cyber attack could be costly in human life and could no doubt threaten the entire nation's security. In Texas, an outage this winter that lasted only days caused over 200 deaths, bringing home the potential damage from much longer duration outages spanning larger geographic areas. Again, without power, our nation as we know it ceases to exist. Without critical services relating to healthcare, banking, refrigeration, fuel delivery, and potentially water and wastewater treatment and delivery systems, we are in extreme crisis. Given this, there is no credible reason for anything but the most robust response to this present crisis. For more information, please see the complaint that was filed by Michael McBee on August 26, 2021 with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. FERC docket number EL21-99-000. Please also contact your congressman and local media, and then share this video. Thanks for your attention and patriotism. This is Jonathan Hill with the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, an official congressional advisory board.